Welcome and thank you for listening to the Civic Space today with Southern Defenders, a podcast that explores the status of the civic and political space in the Southern Africa region. We unpack critical issues that shape the space. My name is Mandata Mloja and I am your host. Today's episode is special. Set within the month we commemorate International Women's Day, this episode situates itself in a celebration of the efforts that have been made to advance the empowerment of women, while also recognizing the numerous challenges that still exist, reminding us of the need to do more, to innovate, to adapt, and to expand ourselves as we respond to the challenges faced by women worldwide. We're joined today by the Regional Advisor for Gender and Social Inclusion of the Southern Africa Human Rights Defenders Network, Lungile Mnisi. We will talk about the Women's Network set up by Southern Defenders and the network's upcoming Women's Day event. She will reflect on why they emphasize women human rights defenders and how this network works to serve women human rights defenders. Lungile, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mantate, and good day to your listeners.
So what we normally try and do as we start each of our episodes is to ask our guests to introduce themselves. So who is Lungile Mnisi?
Lungile Mnisi is a woman human rights defender herself, for a start. But professionally, I'm working for the Southern Defenders under the Women Human Rights Defenders Network, serving as the Gender and Social Inclusion Regional Advisor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Like I already mentioned, that we are talking today about the Women's Network within the Southern Africa Human Rights Defenders. What inspired this network?
The network under the Southern Defenders, it's affiliated under Southern Defenders. It's not a standalone network. It seeks to respond to gender-specific violence and threats faced by women offline and online, and protecting their civil space. We have observed that women face different challenges to those that are faced by their male counterparts. Sometimes it's just even an added burden because they would face and go through whatever their male counterparts would go through. But also, specifically for them, they would also face issues of sexual harassment, rape, and other forms of sexual violence, which then can lead to further violations like stigmatization. So the protection mechanisms for women human rights defenders have to take into account all these and take into account all these complexities that women are facing. And in our observation as Southern Defenders is that we have seen through our evaluation reports that women seem to be taking little space in terms of the protection mechanisms that are offered. So then we realize that there's need to tailor those to actually fit the needs of women. Hence, the Women Human Rights Defenders and Southern Defenders. Thank you.
We've had this conversation with a couple of the women that we've had in this podcast to say women are set within context where there are societal, cultural perceptions that shape their experience or their ability to do the different things they show up to do, including human rights work. And you've done a good job of just introducing us to some of the challenges that women face, including stigmatization, sexual harassment, as they go about doing their work. I wanted to just ask you, because before they step out in the communities, they are women at home. And before they step out of that community into the city, into the national work and regional work, there are also women within their community. They are perceived a certain way. So what are some of those perceptions or societal experiences that you think shape the way that women look at the work that they do within human rights and the contribution they give to human rights work?
Well, women face a wide range of cultural and societal challenges. Maybe to start off is to say that really the experiences of violations, they happen in different contexts. Most of the time it's context where there is weak respect for democracy, the crumbling integrity of the institutions that safeguards and protects human rights. and where accountability really has been weakened. And paramount in this, as you've said, are the cultural and traditional aspects where women human rights defenders face a lot of violations. I must say, in the region itself, there are different diversities and as well as similarities. For instance, when you talk about issues of gender and sexual minorities, you will see that the region hasn't been keen on actually legislating on those. There are few, but even where they are legislated, you'd find that society, because in as much as you have the laws and everything, but society is still not conforming to those laws, so they would still face violations. And in many instances, it will be issues of hate crimes and corrective rape. And specific examples where traditional and cultural societies still persist. One of these is Eswatini. Eswatini is a very cultural society that, to the extent that even the legal system is dual, where customary law is in coexistence with Roman Dutch law. So these then brings an issue to bear, because in most instances you'd find that the Roman Dutch law will take secondary place where issues of culture and tradition are concerned. And you've got other contexts like Namibia, where there's contestations between the judiciary and the parliament. On one end, the judiciary is making progressive judgments where issues of same-sex relations are concerned. And then you've got parliament, on the contrary, that is legislating anti legislations to issues of same-sex couples. In South Africa, you find that there's a heightened attack on human rights defenders and women human rights defenders that are working in the field of migrant and refugees rights. And one uniform spectrum, though, throughout the region are issues of land and environmental rights. Women human rights defenders, we've seen that there's a heightened attack in that sphere as well.
Does it differ when it comes to other regions? Does this experience of women human rights defenders in Southern Africa differ from like other regions on the continent?
They are not that different. African challenges are almost the same. We've talking about issues of land rights, because you know that we've inherited a colonial system. And so where there are land rights challenges and contestations between businesses, the government, and the people on the other hand. So there is always that, which seems to be uniform throughout the continent. But as I've said, there are different variations depending on the progression of this democratic institutions and their extent in which they are able to protect human rights. But also the societal conformity to those legislations also counts. So there are different variations as much as there are very glaring similarities.
That's actually good. I think understanding that there's similarities across region then creates space for a lot of learning across region. Some of the things that we're going to reflect on today and some of the ways we can begin to support women human rights defenders are things that people from other regions can learn from, but also looking at Southern African women, also learning from some of the other people from the different regions in Africa. So now I want you to tell us a bit more about the Women Human Rights Network and also this upcoming Women's Day event. What is it all about?
Well, the Women Human Rights Defenders Network is actually, as I've said, a subset of the Southern Defenders. And we work with women human rights organizations on the ground in different countries, where they are formed into networks, which then through which the Southern Defenders is able to then implement certain programs. These are probably just 3 strategic programs that we do as Southern Defenders, which we then apply similarly to the Women Human Rights Network. These are the rapid, practical, and comprehensive protection support, to any women human rights or human rights defender at risk. And we also do research, advocacy, and visibility, targeting issues that are of value to women human rights defending in a way that we level the ground and ensure that the civic space, both online and offline, is safe to operate and they are able to thrive in their work in protecting human rights. And we also do resilience and capacity building. This component is informed by periodic assessments that we conduct to establish the needs, the capacity needs of our network members. And then we then drop a program that then builds their capacity and enhance their capacities accordingly. So that's the way that we operate and work with the various networks in the region as Southern Defenders.
You mentioned when you started that there's an event coming up for Women's Day. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, there is an event coming up. We are actually going to be reflecting on the summit. We held the summit last year in Windhoek, Namibia, in November, where there were issues that were raised, which we feel that we need to reflect on as a region at large, because you may be aware that not everybody was able to participate and be part of that summit. And so this event is a way of then involving everyone and ensuring that we are all together in shaping our agenda as the Women Human Rights Defenders network, where we seek to actually identify niches and programs that we can do. And that is really good for us because we are always wanting to be informed by the beneficiaries' needs and not do what we think they might need, but be informed by their real needs on the ground. So the activity or the upcoming activity is all about that, in all honesty, that at the final analysis, we're trying to set an agenda for the Women Human Rights Defenders Network.
That sounds very exciting. I'm also glad, like, as a young woman human rights defender, there is something for us that we can be a part of. So some of the listeners here that may not necessarily be a part of the network and would have an interest in it, and also just looking at the international community that might be listening to this, how do people like that come in to support the work of human rights defenders in Southern Africa, one not necessarily in the network, but also how can all of those people come together to be a part of or contribute to the network broadly?
You know, one of the things that we note is the fact that, just speaking to the listener now, is the fact that there are issues when it comes to identification. Women human rights defenders tend not to identify as human rights defenders. So as such, I'm saying to the listener, if you are in the space of human rights defense, really you need to be part of the networks, and that way you can heighten your work and be able to be sure that you are protected in terms of the risks that people in the spaces of human rights defending face. So that would be the first. But also to the international community is to say, particularly to the donor community now, is to motivate that while we appreciate the contribution that has been made so far, we keep seeing in the donor community shifts in terms of priorities, and then would like to motivate that support or investment in human rights defending is very key. Defending the front line is very key, because anything else, any other investment would be meaningless if the human rights defender that is doing that work is not protected and safe. Hence, we are saying as Southern Defenders, we appreciate the investment so far, but we can still do more and not really leave this component behind, because it's very, very key in achieving whatever objectives and goals that we may set in the other areas of human rights.
Thank you so much, Lungile. I was going to also just ask you to maybe share with us some of the platforms where they can potentially go and find out more information. Is this information that's on the Southern Defenders website? Outside of that, where else can they get more information? And then in terms of becoming a part of the network, how do they go about doing that?
We are present in on online social media, Facebook, Twitter, so on and so forth, but we can also get us on the net, on our website. At country level, there are networks that are established. You can reach out to those and be part of them. They are in different forms and shapes and levels of capacity as well. We're still working and progressing to build them up. As I've said, that our programs really are also strengthening the institutions of human rights defenders at country level. So reach out there and be part of the group. So long as you're a human rights defender, you are you have your spaces there to be part of the movement.
Thank you.
And maybe listeners are asking themselves, who is a women human rights defender, and how can I be sure? Because we've noticed that the issues of identification are very, very persistent with our members. So a human rights defender is anyone that works to defend the rights of various people. It could either be a parliamentarian, a civil society worker who is doing advocacy. It can be a journalist. It can be someone that is necessarily not affiliated to any organization. A community activist is still a human rights defender. So, which is where then we are seeing the cracks, that community activists do not necessarily come to the fore because they feel they're isolated, they're on their own. You can reach out, you are still a human rights defender and be part of a network, even though you are at community level. We really are needing you because those are the most at risk.
Thank you for clarifying and also just giving that broad definition, because I think a lot of people can really find themselves in that definition. So for all our listeners, like Lungile said, you can actually check out different social media accounts where you can get more information, or you can go to the website. So the website is www.southerndefenders.africa. You can find more information there. But like you mentioned already, there are also some country networks that you can be a part of in the different countries that you're coming from. So thank you so much for that, Lungile.
Thank you.
So my next question is, does Southern Defenders collaborate with other women's rights networks or organizations? If so, how do the strategies of the Women Human Rights Defenders Network differ or build itself into the approaches of those other organizations working on broader women's rights issues?
Yeah, we do collaborate and work with the country networks, as I've said, and our target here is the frontline, is those human rights defenders. We don't necessarily go to the ground to do the work that they do, even though our contribution is actually protecting them to thrive in the work that they do, servicing their constituencies. So our target is that frontline worker. We are defending the defender here. We are caring for the carer in a way to ensure that they also contribute meaningfully to their communities, and the work that they do remains protected, and they are safe and resilient and continue to do the good work that they do on the ground. So as I've said, we are having 3 programmatic interventions where we offer protection for those at risk, and we also build their capacities, and we also provide the platform for joint advocacy, research, and visibility for women human rights defenders and human rights defenders at large.
So this conversation has really been interesting, and we could go on, but I think you've done a good job of highlighting the work of the network, how women can be a part of it, and why it matters that women human rights defenders receive the kind of support that the network provide. So like I said already, that it's exciting that it's Women's Month. So what does this one mean for you as an individual, and what message do you have for women and girls that are listening to this episode, not just women human rights defenders, but women and girls everywhere?
I would like to say power to you, women. You have fought so many battles and you still remain strong, and there's still more to be done. We can do it together, and we can stand together, strengthening each other and move forward. And reflecting on the Women's Month this year, we are talking about inspiring inclusion, and as such, we must strive to actually embrace everyone in their diversity from all different walks of life, and move together forward, making sure that we are leaving no one behind, dismantling all those challenges and stumbling blocks that may make their participation and work sort of difficult along the way, and ensure that we all move together with ease and holding each other strong.
Thank you so much, Lungile, for making the time to have a conversation with me today. And thank you so much for the amazing work that you're doing, particularly work that is focused on women human rights defenders. So this brings us to the end of our conversation. Do you have any closing remarks or anything that you'd like to add that we didn't get to talk about?
Thank you so much. I would say partners must come out and affiliate and reach out whenever there's challenges. We are there for them. There's no Southern Defenders without the members. That's the key message as I close. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lungile, and a special shout out to all of our listeners. Would love to hear your feedback and thoughts on today's episode. Leave us a comment on the platform you're using to listen to this episode or take us on a post on social media. Remember to share this podcast and to follow Southern Defenders on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can visit our website on www.southerndefenders.africa to get a broader sense of the work that Southern Defenders does. This is the Civic Space Today, a program of the Southern Defenders. I am Mandatum Loja, your host for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in and see you next time. Together, we defend.